We are about to open the third one in the series of the webinars which we are organizing in view of spreading the real message of Ayurveda. In fact, propagation of Ayurveda and carrying the real essence of Ayurveda to the general public is one of our prime objectives. So Ayurveda Sala is indeed very glad to welcome all of you to this event this evening. So this time we have selected the theme as Ayurveda and infectious diseases. For the last two sessions which we organized, it was covering the basics of Ayurveda as well as the immunity. So this time also we have made it a point to select a theme which is having some contemporary importance. That is why we went for this infectious diseases and Ayurveda. In fact, we all know that infection is a term which we very often encounter with these days. So that would be the main theme which we are going to cover this evening. And we are very happy to inform you that our Chief Physician, Dr. P.M. Vaidya sir, is online with us. He'll be present with us throughout the session and we'll be able to procure his advice and support as and when required. I thank him as well as I formally welcome him to this event. Welcome, sir. Also, the other panelists include our additional Chief Physician and Superint, Dr. K. Muralidharan, sir. May I formally welcome you to this event, sir. The third member of our panel is Dr. P.R. Ramesh, sir. Dr. Ramesh, sir, is the head of our clinical research department. Welcoming you to the session, sir. Ramesh, sir. Please join us, sir. Hope we are audible to you. Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. And the main speaker of this evening is Dr. Nishant Narayan. Dr. Nishant serves as the senior physician at our Ayurvedic Hospital and Research Center in Kottakkal. He will be speaking to us about infectious diseases and its Ayurvedic perspectives. Welcome, Dr. Nishant, to this session formally. So the session has two parts mainly. The first one will be the talk by Dr. Nishant. Followed by that, the session will be open for a discussion as well as a question answer session. The panelists will be sharing their experiences as well as they'll be here to respond to your doubts and queries. You may please put your questions in the chat box. We shall receive it here and the panelists will be giving their views on your doubts. So please utilize their presence and expertise. So without much introduction, we may move on to the main part of the program. Dr. Nishant will be talking on the theme. Doctor, please.
Respected Dr. P.M. Vaidya sir, who is the participants and panelists, additional Chief Physician Dr. K. Muralidharan sir, Chief Research Wing Dr. P.R. Ramesh sir, and all our participants. Actually, a very good evening to all of you. It is a good evening outside anyhow. So I am very delighted to be a part of this endeavor of Ayurveda Sala to propagate some tenets of Ayurveda, to inform some people about what Ayurveda actually says about certain topics. This is, as you know, the third part. I'll be only adding something. I would like to share some information about the topic of infections, hoping that somehow it might be helpful for you to improve your wellness or learn more about yourself. So I'll just start my presentation or the small talk. I hope you'll be there with me for a while. The topic which I'm going to talk about today is infections. It's basically the Ayurvedic perspective. You've all been hearing about infections during this times of pandemic. And in fact, infection is something that we have learned or read about or have been informed sometime or the other in our lifetime. Now I'll start with my prayers to our presiding deity, Lord Vishwambara, and our founder, homage to our founder, Vaidya P.S. Vaidya. Actually, it was his vision to propagate Ayurveda in such a way that quality medicines will be made available to the patients, as well as the Ayurveda will be propagated. So started a period of renaissance from this small village of Kottakkal, and which is the guiding spirit behind this webinar series too. So the first question which I would like to face is, why do we need to revisit the concept of infections again? The concept of infection has evolved over the times. It has passed on by taking some simple antibiotics. Now, the antibiotics, people are waking up to the fact that antibiotics are not the final cure. There are more to it, more to curing of infections than just antibiotics. The concept of probiotics are coming, how to improve your immunity is coming. The basic reason being, we are visited by a lot of diseases which we thought were gone. The infections which we thought we had control is coming back. There are resistant strains of bacteria and other causative organisms which are coming again and again, making us go in search of newer medicines, new vaccines, all those things. But we are trying to move away from the fact that it is not actually the medicines which is going to cure us or help us fight this infection, but it is ourselves. Our Indian sciences were always concentrated on the individual. And that is why now the concept of infections, now people are going into improving the immunity, and everywhere we know people are becoming more and more health conscious. New health conscious foods are being propagated, new exercises are coming out. People are waking up to the fact of breathing techniques, all these things to improve your immunity. We also covered immunity in the last sessions. But the concept of infection also is very much, in line with the times now, changing. So the second part is a lot of you might be having the same doubt, which I had long back, that when I was not knowing about Ayurveda, that is an Ayurveda which is supposedly a very old science. Of course, it is relevant in present period also. But how can something that was that formed during a very ancient period be relevant in the treatment of reportedly new infections? The thing is, if it is relevant or not, I have, even when I was in school and all, I had asked certain Ayurvedic doctors about it. And then they told me the concept of Ayurveda is totally different. How it deals with the disease is totally different. The people who were there, who had formed the idea of Ayurveda, had resorted or depended on certain things which is time tested and which is not like the modern way of looking at things. The perspective is slightly different, but it is still relevant. So if somebody asks me now that is Ayurveda relevant in treatment of reportedly new infections, I would say it is an emphatic yes, it is. We are treating, we have been here around, and we have to contribute into the modern medical sciences. In fact, all the relevant sciences, medicine sciences, everything should come together when we are fighting something like a pandemic or a new infections. Everything, when it comes to health, is, after all, we all have to contribute, and we are all coming together also. People are now understanding the importance of all these factors which Ayurveda also propagates. Now, how does Ayurveda actually help in fighting infections and all? Ayurveda basically is divided into two parts. It was known as Swastha Vrittam as well as Atura Vrittam. Swastha is, as you know, it is something related with health. So maintaining health is one of the main part of Ayurveda. In fact, when the Ayurvedic studies start, it is initially about maintaining health. They tell you how to, the day regimes, the regimes during the different seasons, and then what to eat, what not to eat, how to eat, and how to take care. Even mental stature of a person is considered, and what all you have to do is also given relevant importance. The second part of Ayurveda is, of course, combating illnesses. So these two parts become Ayurveda. So Ayurveda is not just a medical science, it is basically a health science. It contributes to improving your health. So maintaining health is one part, combating illness is second part. So both these things together is required in treating an infection. So let us now start with the definition of infection, which we all are aware of, but I'll just revisit it. So an infection is the invasion of an organism's body tissues by disease-causing agents, their multiplication, and the reaction of host tissues to the infectious agents and the toxins they produce. So basically, when I've divided this definition into two parts, one is infection is an invasion of organisms, body tissues. But basically, what we have to be concentrated on is that it is basically our reaction of the host tissues, that is ourselves, to an infection. We know that there are plenty of infected or infectious agents around, but some get infected, some don't. The infectious agents are not able to break into the defense systems of certain people, and so they are not infected. However, some people are. And then after an infection also, the toxins which are left by the disease causing organism, that also causes the disease. So it is in these two portions that Ayurveda plays a more important role when it comes to infections. Now, coming to all these things which I said was basically a kind of small talk, but let us see how this is something just for the sake of your knowledge sake. I'm telling you how and where infectious diseases are mentioned in Ayurveda. So indication of infectious diseases in Ayurveda comes in 2-3 parts. One was in Sushruta Samhita, which is one of the main texts of Ayurveda. There is a mention of Aupasargika Rogas. Okay, I'll come to what Aupasargika Roga is. Then the second is Agantuja Rogas. And third is Janapado Dhvamsaniyam. So the 3 parts, this is the main part of infectious diseases in Ayurveda. I'll come to other things also later. Now, what is Aupasargika Rogas? As you know, Ayurveda basically was in mostly Sanskrit. Most of you will be knowing about it. So in Sanskrit, Upasarga or Samsarga denotes to come in contact with. So basically, this is all contagious diseases. It is said to spread from one person to another through physical contact. So the specific diseases Sushruta mentioned one was Kushta. Kushta is not just leprosy, as is, we are known to know it from the Hindi vernacular that Kushta means leprosy. So it is not. In Ayurveda, Kushta means a range of skin diseases. Then fevers, which is in Sanskrit we call it jara. Conjunctivite is like Netra Vishuddha. We all know that it is passed on. You have to give credit to the fact that when people used to say that when you're looking at somebody you get conjunctivitis, Sushruta had mentioned why and how these things spread. It is due to close contact using common things. I would not go into the Sanskrit part of it, but still for the people who are more interested to know what all, see the Aupasargika Roga, I've written a small thing down. I'm just explaining one word. Sankramanti Nara Nara. From one Nara to other Nara, it goes. Then Prasanga, by speech and all. Gatra is body. When you come in contact, then when you're eating food together, Saha Bhojanat, you're sleeping together, all these things, using their things of others, these all may result in, result in causing the person to get infected. So that is what Aupasargika Roga is, contagious disease, a kind of you're giving this disease to somebody else. So that is how Aupasargika or Samsarga. So Aupasargika Rogas means that. Now, Agantuja Vyadhi is based on etiology. Etiology in the sense there are 2 types of diseases, they say Nija and Agantuja. Nija is a group of diseases that occur due to disturbances in the homeostasis of the organism. Your body itself has certain imbalances of certain things which causes diseases like diabetes and all. It comes from inside. Hypertension. Of course, external things may cause this, but Nija, it is kept under the Nija part. Agantuja is a disease that enters from outside to cause diseases like your infections, malaria, tuberculosis, chickenpox. These all come from outside. But however, these 2 things are very closely interrelated because Agantuja Rogas may convert into a disease entity into a Nija type. A disease which comes outside that may cause some kind of internal issues also. We'll come to that later. There are certain diseases which cause arthritic problems and such things also. So we'll come on for those things too. Then the third part, which is the most important part in the present scenario, it is called Janapado Dhvamsaniya. This comes in the Charaka Samhita. So Janapad, Jan people. So Janapado Dhvamsaniyas, that causes destruction of a Janapad. So as the name itself suggests, it is basically epidemic or pandemic sort of diseases, which affect a large group of individuals and community, etc. The basic thing is, as most of you who have heard the last two classes may be aware, that Ayurveda is more individual specific. We have prakritis, we have all those things. So this Janavadodumsaniya usually affects irrespective of the difference in prakriti, that is constitutional traits based on their genetics and all those things. Then what we eat, irrespective of what you eat, when it comes, it affects you, it may affect physical strength. A strong person, a young person, an old person, and sapmya. There are certain people who have a congenial suitability to certain people. All those people, everybody, irrespective of all these differences, they may be affected from the Janavadodumsaniya. So our present, most famous disease of COVID, it is one kind of Janavadodumsaniya also. We had a lot of Janavadodumsaniya sort of things. Chikungunya was there, H1N1 was there, SARS was there. All those things came. When it came, we did not know who all it will affect. We were all running scared about this. So how does it affect? In Charaka Samhita itself, they say, root cause of such disease is adharma. When I say adharma, don't jump into the conclusion of it being something religious. Adharma is something that we are not supposed to be doing. Whatever good things we do, it is dharma. Adharma is whatever we are not supposed to do. And when you're doing certain things which causes problems in the nature, that is including air, water, earth, and time factors, what happens, or nature itself becomes makes us very susceptible to certain things. Nature hits back. While the COVID was coming on, we knew that after a couple of days, the air pollution, everything came down because people were not going out. The pollution was causing a lot of things. We were adding to the respiratory distress of people. So these are the things which comes under adharma. So adharma, when they said adharma, it was basically meant those things which we are not supposed to be doing. Now, few points to discuss in Ayurveda when it comes to infection. This is a certain thing that is scattered around. So I thought I would also throw some light little bit by little. One is, there is a topic called graha. Graha actually, it becomes that something which holds you, grahan karna. And the other thing is graha is a planet. So these things were supposedly, it came under Bhuta Pradishedam also. So these were small things which couldn't be seen but caused symptoms. So this may be infectious diseases. In treatment of graha, dhupana was said. Dhupana is causing smoke and all of medicated smokes, which they said was good for graha badhas. So dhupana agents were used. And recently also, while this COVID was going on, a lot of people were going on burning certain things like aparachita graha dhuma. So this dhupam, what was causing it, it was studied and found that it was killing off the bacteria, fungus, and such things. I wouldn't be saying that it was be efficacious against virus also, but they said that dhupanam always causes purifications. In homams and havans and all, we burn a lot of things which causes purification of the air. What exactly we mean by the purification of air is it causes smoke. It is not basically pure air and all, but it kills off a lot of bacteria and such things, disease-causing agents, which purifies. That is also a kind of purification. So graha is one part of this. Even in wounds also, in infected wounds, some dhupanams are done. In infected wound, which is called dushta vruna, there is a Vivek topic called vruna pradishedam in Shushruta. In that also, the dhupana part is there. Second part, last classes, it has been totally covered. Vyadhi kshamatvam is there. That is related to your immunity. How the immunity can ward off certain diseases. There are a kind of diseases which comes under krimis. There are different types of krimis. Krimi is not just worms. It is all kind of organisms which come. So these things all can be resisted if your vyadhi kshamatvam is good. So that immunity part I won't be going much because it has already been covered in the last class. Then the third part is upadravas. Upadravas are complications of certain diseases. Some diseases cause certain complication in some stages, which might be infectious in nature, like your prameha, pitakas, and all that. Those things have to be treated accordingly. Then fourth part is the Vishaja Vyadhi. Vishaja Vyadhi is toxins-induced diseases. Even your infections or disease-causing agents which release a lot of toxins inside the body, which causes a long-term effect on the patient who has had it. We have an example of chikungunya and all, which was causing arthritic pains. We have even the COVID going off into the long COVID things. We have the slow virus concept where virus stays latent inside. So all these can be made into Vishaja Vyadis. In that, certain medicines like Dushi Visham or medicines for Dushi Visham like Villuadi Guliga is there, and then Kaivisha Parihari is there. Some detoxification agents are there. Not only that, there is another thing like in Vishaja Vyadis and all, detoxification center is our liver. So giving some medicines for liver, we have such medicine for liver clot and all. These medicines can improve your detoxification, which is required from time to time. That will be helpful. So these all will be also helpful in fighting off the infections. Now, this is something important because a lot of people might be curious how Ayurvedic principles can be used to treat new age infections. So new age infections are a new virus has been found and these things. And how can an Ayurvedic principle, which was long ago formulated, be or can be used to treat these diseases? This is a very question, a very relevant question that happens in most of our minds now. So how it can be? We have to understand that once upon a time, when we were not supplied with, or we had the benefit of such diagnostic tools, at that time Ayurvedic principles came into being. So they used certain things which would help them to treat all kinds of diseases. And it was a very logical sort of thinking, that hypothesis and what they found, it is relevant until now, that it is able to ward off a lot of things. And it is now, we all know that it has been time tested, even though we won't be able to point a finger of what this is, but the results are there to be seen. So how Ayurvedic principles can be used to treat new age infections? Now, the basic principle in the first session, I think it was covered. Ayurveda is divided into 3 parts. It is physiologically, all the parts of Ayurveda has been divided into, say, neurologic symptoms will be coming under Vata, neurological functions also. Pitta is related to all heat-related or enzymatic actions, hormonal actions. Kaphaja is the sthairya, the building up of the bodies, the swellings, all those things comes under Kapha. I'm not going into the things. So equilibrium of these things causes health. When it is not in equilibrium, it might not be your good health. So for wellness, the equilibrium has to be there. Then there is Prakriti and such things, such as a vaster topics. I won't be going on it. But based on this, even diseases were divided. So the symptoms were divided. I'll take, for example, certain, only the concept of fever. I'll just explain to you what Vata Jara or Vata fever means, Pitta fever means, Kapha. I won't be dwelling too much on that. I'm just giving you an idea as to how we treat infections based on Ayurvedic principle. To show that only, I'm going to tell you something about the Jara parts. So Vata Jara actually symptoms are fluctuation temperature. Vata actually it's a flowing thing. So the fluctuation of temperature there, it causes joint and muscular pain, which is, as I told you, neurogenic in action. Tiredness, headaches, bad taste. The bracket ones are all Sanskrit names which are mentioned in the Ayurvedic text, but I think that is not required. Then tinnitus, what you hear, there is a sound when you hear. Then you have a disease for heat, Garmecha. What happens is, in the cold season, your Vata increases. So there is always a desire for heat for Vatika kind of people. So Vata Jara and all, desire for heat is a yawning comes. They are tired and all, maybe they require a lot of oxygen and all. So during that time, the yawning part and all, it comes as a symptom of Vata Jara. Similarly, in Pitta Jara, what happens is, Pittam actually it is all related to temperature. So in Pitta Jara, the temperature will be very high. Spreading of temperature will be simultaneous. It will be very fast in all parts of the body. So spreads very fast. Then sometimes you have red rashes in the skin. Then yellow or green coloration of skin happens in certain people. So these are the symptoms which are mentioned by your Ayurvedic text when they said about Pitta Jara. In that also sudden onset is there. Diarrhea sometimes comes, and sweating. It is also that profound thirst, because in Pitta what happens, it is all heat. So your thirst will be there. Then desire for cold also comes. Then comes the Kaphaja Jara. In Kaphaja Jara, It is mild fever. It is not very high, but you have cold-like symptoms, right? Running nose is there. Sometimes cold eruptions comes. Shwasa doesn't mean the breath only. It relates to all diseases of the breath, like asthmatic, respiratory distress, all those things. In addition to that, there are other symptoms which may be a combination, like you are having irrelevant talks and all. Some people with high fever start talking irrelevantly, incoherently. So this is called as in Vata Paitiga kind of job. Some people have vomiting and all in Paitiga things, and Raktashtevanam is blood. You vomit the blood. In Vata Kafaja kind of things, you have Chardi. In Paitiga kind of, it is bile kind of, sour kind of vomiting comes. Then Brahma, that is dizziness. You feel giddy. Then Prasega is excess salivation. In Vadiga, it may be thin. In Kafaja, it may be thick saliva. So based on that, we can say that this is Vadaja, it is Kafaja, it is Paitiga. So these symptoms can be taken into account, and then we can decide which is it. Then accordingly, the treatment can be, because for Vada Jara, Pitta Jara, Vada Kafa Jara, Vada Pitta Jara, all those things, the treatment protocol is set. It is there in the our text. So based on that, we can use it for the diseases too. Now I'm just going into two fevers and their interpretations, how it is done. So first thing is chikungunya. So chikungunya is a disease which came in some parts of Kerala and a lot of areas too, in which the first set of symptoms included sudden onset, high temperature, rash, and diarrhea and conjunctivitis. And second set of symptoms were joint pains, stiffness, swelling on the ankles and all, headache, fatigue. When you're seeing this, you can see that first temperature, high temperature, sudden onset, all this is Paitiga. The second thing, joint pains, all this is Vata Jara. So when you interpret it, it can be correlated with Vada Pitta Jara, leading to Vada Shonida. Vada Shonida is a topic of arthritis. So most of the chikungunya patients, they complained of joint pains after the chikungunya had gone. They were treated. So treatment has to be done according to the predominant dosha. So the patient comes, we don't have a set protocol for each disease. We have a set protocol for each patient according to his condition for a particular disease. So treatment medicines will be varying, but this is how we do it. Second thing was H1N1, which you might have heard. I selected H1N1 because it is very similar to your present scenario of COVID also. The H1N1, first set was sneezing, running nose, cough, shortness of breath, sore throat, vomiting. And second was body ache, muscle pain, fatigue, weakness, chills, severe headache, weight loss, vomiting. So first part, if you see, it is mostly Kafaja kind of symptoms. Second part is all Vataja kind of. So first it is Kapha, second is Vata. So it is Vata Kapha Jara. So the complications will be respiratory failure, pneumonia sort of medicines. So all those things have to be treated as a Vata, Kapha Vata kind of disease. Now, coming to the second, the part of prevention, the first thing which you have to do in any infection is you have to arrest the progression. That is, you give some medicines to arrest the increase of this disease. Then you go to bring it down. Then the second thing is building immunity against diseases using various measures. The immunity of the person has to be built up so that these diseases, this infection, because if somebody is having infection in your home, it is not necessary that you get it if your immunity is well. So how to improve immunity, we have already covered last time. I'll be going through it a little bit more. Now, it has a twofold approach for infections. One is to prevent infections. It is keep away from the causative factor. It is called Nidana Parivarjana. Whatever is there, you keep away. Now, in the present scenario, you know that so-and-so areas are contaminated, you don't go there. You keep away from people who are there. You isolate the people. Those things are all keeping away from the causative factors. Your hands are dirty, you wash away. That's also a kind of keeping away of causative factors. The second thing is use of immunomodulators. Usage of immunomodulators is immunomodulator in the sense because it is not always immunoboosting, because in allergies and all, sometimes your immunity increases, that also causes problems. So immunomodulators is a very broad term in which nowadays also the Ayush department has come up with the Ayush Patha Churnams and all. These are to prevent the infections. These kind of things, Chawanprash, taking a Chawanprash regularly, and basically if you're having a sugar or something like that also, you can always contact a doctor. He can tell you a lot of things to improve your immunity. An Ayurvedic doctor can give you a host of medicines to do that. Even taking simple detoxification regimes for the liver, like Livocort and all are there. That itself helps your metabolism and all, which improves your immunity. So these are also some parts, detoxification as well as immunity building things. These can be used. Second thing is to cure the infection. To cure the infections, actually, proper disease-wise treatment protocols has to be. So each disease-wise treatment protocol, even when I say that, what I really mean is, in a proper disease-wise treatment protocol for each individual is required. Each individual may be different. A person who has a cold might be having nasal discharge only. Some people might be having heaviness of the head. Some people will be having cough and all. So all these people comes, we don't give the simple one medicine for all. It may be according to his conditions, which we have to give. For fevers also, it is the same thing. It is not like one tablet for everything. It is according to each patient, each medicine has to be given. Now, the concept of immunomodulators in Ayurveda is something like that. It is not just a set of medicines, like, we all know about Chyawanprash, we all know other Brahma Rasayanams, we all know. It is not just a set of medicines. You are not supposed to be taking only just ashwagandha or all those things. There are a lot of other things also that come into play when you are trying to improve your immunity. One is your regular routine. You have to take timely food. Your body has got a certain kind of rhythm, kind of ways how it secretes certain digestive enzymes and all. So if you're taking untimely food, what happens? Your digestion goes bad. And when your digestion goes bad, every other diseases will follow. Because you are what you eat. From medicines are not required as much as you require food. So this is what is very important. The timely routine of eating should be maintained if possible. If possible, in the sense, like, suppose you are not able to take lunch at 1 o'clock in the office timings and all, you can eat as fruit at the same time. It is enough. So then the third thing is need to consume a wholesome diet. You have to know what you are supposed to eat. A balanced diet is always important. A balanced diet does not mean a fancy diet. It means what you're taking, but you take it in such a way that it is custom made. Like if you are having a problem with oily food and all, you can reduce oils. You should never cut down every food. Even for diabetic people also, some fruits and such things are being suggested now. You have to take a wholesome diet. It should be balanced. Then the next part is need for proper exercise. Now, proper exercise in the sense, we all have to move around for all those, to give some exercise. There are certain secretions that happen inside the body, which keeps our mind as well as the body healthy. So exercise is very required to maintain your mobility too. Then there is another thing which is called seasonal purificatory therapies. That is, in Ayurveda, we mentioned that in certain seasons, certain purificatory therapies are required. For example, in Vasanta Ritu, we say that Vamanam is required because during that time, the Kapha part increases. So Vamana is a kind of therapeutic emesis. So this kind of, it comes under Panchakarma only. And in Sharad Ritu, we say that it is good to have Virechana. In Varsha Ritu, because Vata comes up, it is what we suggest is Vasti. It's a kind of medicated enema. It's not just motions. It is giving certain medicines through an anal route too. So seasonal purificatory therapies also go a long way in having your immunity improved. So this is the part where Panchakarma, which will be later on explained to you. So Panchakarma is also an important part in improving your immunity. Along with this, you can of course take Ashwagandha Churnam, Ayushveda Churnam, Chyawanprasham, Brahma Rasayanam, Triphala. We know that it contains antioxidants. That free radical scavenging is a well-known topic nowadays. Not only that, improving, the people who are not able to go for purificatory therapies, they can take tablets like Livocort and such things, liver corrective things, drink plenty of water. These things have to be taken care of because due to our busy lifestyle, we often don't take lots of fruits, water and such things. These things all go a long way in improving our immunity as well as warding off the infections. Second is the curative aspects regarding the infections. In infections, a highly individualized approach, I have already gone through that. According to each individual only, we have to approach each things, because a person having a certain diseases we have to go through the detailed investigations. Nowadays, the diagnostic tools are available. Use that and then only design the protocol to set a treatment for the patient. Purificatory therapies may be needed. This is very important because I think one of our panelists, Dr. Ramesh sir, once was telling me about a case in Delhi hospitals where the purificatory therapies, a patient came, he might explain further maybe, a patient who was not responding to antibiotics after a particular period, he had come there, and after purificatory therapies, he started responding to the antibiotics. So first he was not, and after the purificatory, so the receptivity of the patient is increased. So purificatory therapies always help. It helps to reduce the viral loads, which is now very commonly used term. And then the last part is need to follow the methods to modulate immunity even after the cure. After your disease is cured, what you have to do is you have to improve upon the health of the patient. The convalescent therapy is there. And when you say about Jara and all, the last stages of Jara, Ayurveda mentions use of ghees or rejuvenative things. So after the fever is finished, we give something so that the fever is not repeated. Not only that, whatever you have lost due to the illness, whatever emaciations has happened after the illness, that can be replenished with the Rasayana part of therapies. So infection, when it comes, the initial stage, the treatment will be different. In the middle stage, it will be different. In the last stage, it will be different. When it is cured, then another part. So all these things come together to improve your illness, and the improvement of the wellness or improvement of your health is done in such a way. So these are the parts which we have been covering. It is a very vast things. I don't think I would be able to do justice to the topic of infection in 30 minutes or something. But hopefully a lot of you might have got a bird's eye view or a small picture or a thumbnail of what infection is in Ayurveda. Thank you for a patient hearing. I hope over to you, Sunita, for these things. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nishant. Thank you so much. So we believe that Dr. Nishant's talk, it has touched upon almost all the aspects concerned with this infectious diseases and the outlook of Ayurveda in that particular topic. Especially one thing which he has mentioned that has to be emphatically mentioned again here, I suppose, because he was mentioning that Ayurveda should more be perceived as a health science rather than a medical science. So that in fact explains what is the scope of Ayurveda with regard to the management of infectious diseases. And he was also mentioning about the references, the literary references, which could be comparable to the modern explanations of infections which we may be able to find in classical Ayurvedic literature. And he was also indicating how Ayurveda is prepared to encounter with the new age infections and the two-folded approach which Ayurveda takes in the management of infections and all. And also about the prevention and the preventive part as well as the curative part, the immunomodulatory aspects, and all those things were completely covered. Thank you, Doctor. And now we may move on to the discussion as well as the question and answer session. So, Dr. Nishant, you were just mentioning about the medicine Livocort. Would you please give a little more details? The audience will be having some interest to know more details about that medicine, I suppose.
Okay. Why I just mentioned about liver was, due to our lifestyle and all, we are imbibing a lot of toxins from our food. We are using junk food. And not only that, we are taking a lot of medicines too. A lot of diseases require a lot of medicines. So most of the things is detoxified inside the liver. So we have to give our liver also so that it can be cleansed out. It is not just like for fun that we say that kaleja ka tukda and all for liver. So for people and all, so Livocort is one of the products which Ayurveda had developed, and it contains 3 very potent ingredients. One is your Kirada Tikta. In Hindi and all, a lot of people might be knowing it, Chirayata we call it. It is given for fevers and all. Not only that, in all the Keralites, especially, as well as outside also, we know there is a medicine called Tamalagi, which in Malayalam we call it Kiyarnalli. It is very good for the liver. This, as well as Tipali. These three things are coming in liver cord. And the liver, so this thing, when it comes three things, what happens is when you are multiple medicines adopt, the concentration of each medicine might be less. In liver cord, however, there is only three medicines, which makes the concentration of these medicines higher. Now, when we had the clinical studies of liver cord, what happened was there is a medicine which most of the doctors might be knowing as Silimarin. So the Silimarin was used as a control. So in animal studies and all showed that it is as potent as Silimarin. The studies of Silimarin is well known, and liver cord is giving almost equivalent results. In fact, usually we are using it as a hydroalcoholic extract also. So for liver correction and all, liver cord has to be. And this medicine is so safe that you can take it in a periodic manner. When you are taking a lot of food, you are taking Ajinomotos, you are taking a lot of additives in the food. These things tend to put a strain on your liver. If say once in 2 months, or you take a 10-day course of liver cord, it goes a long way in improving your liver health. So this will be helpful to the general public to take just as an OTC drug even. So I wouldn't advise you to take it as an OTC drug. You should take it with advice of a doctor only. But the medicines or the ingredients of the medicine are so good that I would suggest it to anybody. And being available in tablet, it is very easy to carry also. So liver cord is something that I think for in present scenario, protecting your liver and detoxification is very important. So that is why I just mentioned it, because metabolism is a very important part of Ayurveda. Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Okay, doctor. Thank you. I think Dr. Ramesh sir is back with us. Sir,
I'm so sorry.
okay, no problem, sir. Sir, I was asking you about Gulgulu, Commiphora mucul. Would you please? Okay, sir.
No, Gugulu is a lot of studies have been done in Gugulu. Gugulu, first of all, in Aparajita Thupam, that is where the Gugulu is seen for infection always. In Jwara Chikitsa, especially in infectious fever, 7 herbs. One of the main ingredient is the Gugulu. And that fumigation, that is in Sushruta Samhita and in all other Ayurvedic texts, they were discussing about to fumigate, to disinfect that area. So the bacteria, and that has been now proven in the recent studies also. So Gugulu has got that effect, and it is a plant-based sterols and other anti-inflammatory agents are there. So the internal use of Gugulu also has an antioxidant property as well as anti-inflammatory property and anti-pathogen property also. I would like to mention it in a nutshell like this. I'm audible, no? I'm audible.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Okay, sir. So we may request Dr. Murali, sir. Kindly unmute your microphone, sir. Okay, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, may I request you to share one of your valuable clinical experiences? We are very sure that you would be certainly having experiences in treating infectious diseases. So would you please share one of the experiences for the audience?
Thank you, Dr. Sunita and other panelists. It's a good opportunity for me to share my clinical experience in this August Assembly of Ayurvedic lovers. So I would like to do it within taking 1 or 2, 3 or 4 minutes. I was listening to Dr. Nishant Narayan. He has done his job very nicely. But certain things I would like to add to this. Dr. Sunita, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Please continue, sir.
Ayurveda per se, it is a life experience of our ancestors. It was not an output of certain experiments. Experience and experiments, they are two different things. That is the first thing I have to tell you. And the reason is, reason for knowledge generation was rather limited at that time. And but they understood the multiple functional network of intelligence of body, mind, and nature. This was the basis for generating the knowledge. So it could be something very different from modern medicine or modern science. That's the first thing I have to speak of at this point of time. Secondly, now we are discussing about infections. Now we should understand they were dealing with the infections in a pre-antibiotic era. That is the basic difference. Ayurvedic treatment in the initial stage when it was evolved, there was no antibiotic at all. So it is why I just referred to the this network of knowledge. It was mostly from their experience, they evolved certain treatment methods and approaches. And I'm not talking much about the theory part of it. I have been asked to share a clinical experience. A few years ago, I had an experience when I was assisting Dr. P.K. Arya, sir, our beloved Guru. He was treating a young lady of about 20 years or so. She was suffering from intermittent fever. She used to take some antibiotic medicine like paracetamol and all that. It used to give her some relief instantly. But things became very serious when she developed a fever continuously. Naturally, she went to allopathic doctors. They did all sort of investigations. But everything was inconclusive. Nothing important or clinically contributing came out. And her condition became very worse. Rather, she was very emaciated. She lost weight. And even it was life-threatening situation, so to say. Because they could not give her any specific medicines to control the fever, or the fever is only a symptom, but the underlying disease. Finally, naturally, the only investigation, you will remember, the only investigation left undone was bone marrow biopsy. Since her condition was not fit enough for that investigation, it did not insist on doing that investigation because they were not very hopeful about it. At that point of time, that lady was brought to Kottakkal and seen by Dr. P.K. Vaidya, sir. I happened to be his assistant at that time. Sir examined the patient, saw the patient. Then, after a serious thought, he told me, let us forget about the fever. You forget about the fever. If you think of the patient, then let us start something to improve the strength of the patient instead of giving so many medicine to bring the temperature. We are least bothered about it at this point of time. Then he started giving some medicine mostly to improve her digestion, to improve her general health. I was little afraid of this approach at that time. I used to ask him, sir, should we give something for this to bring them the fever and all that? He didn't pay much attention to that. He was insisting that we should give something to improve her health. That is our basic approach. I vividly remember what he told me. Vedadishtanam Arogyam, Arogyarthan Kriyakrama. That is the basic approach of Ayurveda. You do something to improve her strength. She should be able to fight with the disease. Instead of we providing so many things to kill the bacteria, why can't we try this line? They have the modern medicine doctors have done everything possible. Nothing has come out positively. Then that gave me a lot of courage. I was witnessing the whole thing. I was not doing the treatment. I was witnessing the whole thing. Then what happened? Patient had a lot of ulcers in the mouth. She was unable to take anything by mouth. Then naturally asked her, should we start some or this glucose IV drip, something like that? No, let us start taking the medicines by mouth, food by mouth. That is the prime objective of the treatment now. He started giving the medicine containing buttermilk, many such things. Initially, the response was very poor. There was no much change. But I could see some changes in her within a period of, say, 3-4 days. She started taking something by mouth, very nutritional juices and some amount of kanji water, the rice fuel. Actually, PK warriors are very happy on seeing that. He told me that patient has started responding to the treatment. That's a good sign. Let us observe her. And as he rightly expected, her condition improved gradually. She was able to sit on the chair. She was able to get up from the bed and sit on the chair. Even then, the fever was running at a higher level. He didn't make much attempt to bring it down. By that time, our allopathic doctor also joined our team. And he was examining the patient, the vitals and other things. Things were going like that. That the condition of the patient, the health of the patient improved. Then one day, one of those days, we could find out some glandular swelling on the neck of the patient. It was such an important term during the course of our treatment. And the same day we pointed out this thing to allopathic doctor also, Dr. Vaidya sir. He immediately told us this is a very significant information. This is going to be a very significant information for us. He also advised to wait for a couple of days. Then we could see 2-3 nodules, the lymph nodes there. Doctor opined it's better to do FNAC, fine needle aspiration cytology. It may perhaps help us to arrive at different conclusions. With the help of allopathic doctor, FNAC was done. It was suggestive of tuberculosis. That was the point. That was the real turning point of the treatment history. Then immediately we decided we will continue Ayurvedic treatment. At the same time, we will take the help of allopathic doctor for doing anti-tuberculosis treatment, because we cannot wait for more, because the condition of the patient is though gradually improving. We should not take a chance. Now it is very clear that the patient has got tuberculosis. The anti-tuberculosis treatment started, and she started improving within a week's time. And fever also came down gradually. Their experience, that was a very ever remembering experience for me. Then I had a brief discussion. I used to discuss with Arya, Dr. PK Warrior sir. Sir, she was telling me she was taking all sorts of medicine. She was taking of her own. Even the doctors were suggesting some medicines. They didn't give any space or time for the body to react. So the clinical manifestation was not proper. And nobody could understand what the real problem is. Now, what we have done is we gave a decent time for the body to interact. And that is why it is manifested so beautifully with good symptom, with a tangible symptom, so that we could arrive at correct conclusions. That is why, that is the first lesson I got from Dr. Vaidya sir about the treatment of infections. We should understand that our body has enormous healing potentials. We should give an opportunity for it to work and overcome the crisis. Nowadays, it is not happening. Most of the time, the moment the temperatures goes up, immediately start taking some medicine to bring it down. That actually is harmful to the body. And not only that, the overuse of antibiotics. I'm not finding any fault with that antibiotic. We know that importance of it. It's a life-saving drug, no doubt about it. At the same time, it should be properly used in correct dose and correct time. Otherwise, it will make so many complications. Rather, it may, as we have already explained, it may give a bad picture of the case, rather unclear picture of the case. That is what we have learned from that. This is what has written in Ayurveda. I would say, instead of starting the treatment, there should be a period of observation. Observe the patient. Provide only, do only nutrition balance. Other things the body will take care. That is the experience. That is the first experience, rather the most valuable experience I got from Dr. P.K. Vaidya sir while treating this patient. Now the patient, even today, I had a conversation with her family friends. They told me she is living so beautifully. She's married, she's working, she has 2 children. Just because of this careful observation, we could save one life. That was the that was an experience of our ancestors. That is documented in our classics. So we should understand such experience so that we will have a different view on the disease management. That is one thing I have to tell you. Another is Dr. Nishant Narayan was talking about chikungunya. That is another area. In chikungunya cases, reactive arthritis, not the fever or infection. The reactive arthritis was the major problem. Even now we get cases of reactive arthritis resulted from chikungunya. In such situations, Ayurvedic treatment has a lot of things to do. It really helps the patient. In short, I don't say Ayurvedic treatment will be able to control all the infections immediately. That's a different issue. But the Ayurvedic approach is important in the management of infectious diseases. That's what I have to share with you, Dr. Sindha. Thank you for the time given to me.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for taking all the pains to explain the very insightful and as well as very interesting clinical experience which you shared with the audience. In fact, I suppose we have a few Ayurveda physicians also who had joined us in this event. So it might certainly evoke their interest and they would be really excited to know about the wonderful learning process which you had under Dr. P.K. Vaidya, sir. Thank you, sir. And we are coming to the end of the session. Prior to that, Dr. Ramesh, sir, we have got a few questions regarding the COVID infections and all. So would you please briefly explain about the viral infection management in Ayurveda with reference to this COVID, as well as if you could please mention a few medicines which one may be able to use in this particular background, that would be of very help, I suppose, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Sunita. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Because Dr. Nishant has beautifully explained the concepts of infection. But again, I'm just brushing up those things. One is Janapadotvam, where the air, water, land, and season gets polluted, and a whole lot of people are affected, which is a pandemic, which we are facing now in COVID scenario. Secondly, in Sushruta Samhita, about the Upasargika Roga, infectious diseases. So infectious diseases are also mentioned in Ayurveda in those days when antibiotics were not there. But the approach very clearly, Murali sir has explained. Now again, in COVID virus also, we have no claims and we don't want to claim anything. But definitely, two approaches Ayurveda also discusses is anti-pathogen approach as well as the immune protecting approach. So in anti-pathogen approach, definitely the priority or the prime importance goes to personal hygiene, environmental hygiene, and anti-inflammatory and drugs which have an effect on the pathogen, because that kind of thing Ayurveda also have mentioned, like haldi, ginger, and such things. And of course, the Rasayana Chikitsa, because after a purificatory therapy, the Rasayana Chikitsa, that is what Ayurveda recommends in Janapadotwamsam. So in these conditions, considering the strength of the patient and the disease, it has to be implemented. And the third thing is the preventive aspect is immunomodulatory. Immunomodulatory means definitely pure air, because all these things have already been. Immunoprotection means not only the medicines alone, because your lifestyle, your biological rhythm, your metabolism, and the microbiota that you have, and the immune boosting, proper sleep, stress-free environment, or mental strength and vibrant metabolism. All these are very important in maintaining the immunity. And of course, in immunity, if the immunity boosting is done, that is the pro-host approach. Murali sir was very clearly mentioning, strengthening the patient's immunity. Ayurveda always discusses that whenever it is very difficult to treat and the medicines are not acting, definitely the immune system has to be focused. And that is where these theories come importance. One thing, and the anti-pathogen approach. This is in a nutshell. And I would like to just mention, Dr. Nishant was telling about one patient. That is true, because a patient who was a cancer patient with ulcerative colitis and all, who came all the way from US, as he was not responding to any medicine, responded well to Ayurveda medicine in arresting his bleeding, because he was allergic to so many medicine, and finally he very much positive Ayurvedic medicine, and he was fine. But after 6 years, when he had testicular cancer and a Klebsiella infection, after chemotherapy and all, his immune system was totally derailed, and no antibiotics were acting on him. So at that time only, he came back to India and requested for our help. So we did this purificatory therapy in a way suitable for him, individually tailored treatment. And after that treatment, we could not control the infection. But with the discussion with the allopathic doctor he was consulting in US, the same antibiotics we again administered, and he very beautifully responded to the infection. So this is actually practical experiences that we are sharing when we discuss about infection control. That is it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That was a very detailed and clear explanation. So I think Dr. Murali sir's and Dr. Ramesh sir's explanations completed Dr. Nishant's talk. And I think it is time for us to wrap up. Ayurveda Sala very sincerely thanks to all the attendees who have joined us in here to listen to this particular topic, infectious diseases and Ayurveda. And for any questions left, or we have tried to attend to almost all the queries, but if at all you have any personal queries or any other queries which are non-medical, you may please feel free to contact us through our mail@ayurvedashala.com, or other than medical queries, you may please contact our marketing department in the email ID marketing@ayurvedashala.com. Also, you may please visit our website for complete information regarding our institution. So thank you so much once again. Formally thanking all the panelists. Thank you all.
Thank you.